Hi. So on Monday, we started doing some review for CMAS, and we looked at this packet, and our first objective says, I can cite evidence to support an inference made from the text. Well, there's a lot of words in there. I'm not sure exactly what I'm supposed to be doing with it. So let's tear this apart a little bit, not literally, but let's just kind of break it apart and see what it is. So when I look at the word cite, I know that that means to say. So I'm going to underline it. And then next to that, evidence is a fancy word for the proof. And I'll show you in just a minute. And an inference is what you read plus what you know, and that equals the I for inference. And so what we do is what you read plus what you know equals inference. And text is a fancy word for whatever it is you're reading. So it could be the book, it could be an article, or it could be a magazine. And so we underlined and circled and moved, and this is what it looked like when we were done. So basically, we're going to say some proof to support what it is we're figuring out from the text that we're reading or the article, but it looks like maybe it's a passage here that we're going to be reading. Okay. So leave that for just a second so that you can see it and copy it down on yours. Now, the next trick when we're reading is rather than just read the whole story, I want to know why am I reading this? Because honestly, it doesn't look like it's that long, but maybe it's not even interesting or not something I really want to read. But if I know why I'm reading it, then I'm good. So let's go to the page with the questions. All right. So here's my first question. It says, after the poor widow realized she wasn't dreaming, she thought and thought about who had been so kind and generous to her. Why do you think, who do you think cleaned her home, and why did they do such a generous deed? So I know now I'm looking about who would clean a house. Why would they clean the house? I don't know. And we're going to be explaining our answer here. We're going to explain why did we choose that answer. So I know that by this, the who and the why, I have at least two sentences that have to be answered. And I'm explaining the reasoning. Why for? And it says cite, say the text directly. So whatever it is, where am I getting my answers from? Okay. So let's go back and read it now. And remember, as we're reading, we're looking about cleaning a house. So Prince Radenputra was married to a princess named Dewi Lamarin. One day, when Dewi Lamarin was walking in the palace garden, she saw a snail among her lovely flowers, and she had one of her servants pick it up and throw it away. Not a very nice way to treat the snail. The snail was actually an old witch who had disguised herself as a snail. I don't know why. The witch was very angry, so she cursed Dewi Lamarin and changed her into a golden snail and threw it into the river. The stream carried it far away from the palace. Well, I know in that paragraph there's not really anything about cleaning a house. So I'm going to probably put a little X with a question mark here on and outside that paragraph because I don't know nothing about a house or a widow. But I'm wondering why they're telling me about this enchantment or spelling that's happening for a clean house. Weird. I don't know. So we're going to go ahead and read paragraph 2 now. In the middle, it says, starts on this side of the big forest, there lived a poor widow. Her living was only fishing. One day it was particularly bad as she didn't catch any fish. Again and again she spread her net, but nothing got caught into it. At last she pulled up her net to go home, and suddenly she saw something shining at the bottom of it. It was only a snail. Nevertheless, she picked it up and took it home. Its shell shone like gold. The old woman had never seen such a snail before. Well, it does mention the old lady, so I'm going to put a question mark next to this one. Doesn't really have anything yet in it about getting a house that cleaned, but hey. At home, she put it in the earthen pot. She then went to bed and soon was fast asleep as she was very tired. The next morning, when she woke up, she found to her amazement that the floor had been swept clean and there was some food on the table. That's nice. She wondered who had done all this. She thought she was dreaming, but she wasn't. So this talks about a clean house. I'm definitely going to put a star next to it. So I've got maybe something just because there's a witch and some change, and then we have the golden snail here, and I have a golden snail here. But then I have cleaning stuff, so I don't know. So let's go look at the question again. So she realizes she's not dreaming, and the old woman is thinking and thinking and thinking. And who do you think cleaned her home, and why did they do such a generous deed? So when we talked about it in class, we were thinking maybe it was the witch, but the witch was not the one who was the golden shell. So we were thinking maybe it was the princess that was doing the nice stuff. And so that was what we wrote at the start of it. So we wrote, I think, because we're taking that question stem, that the princess cleaned the old lady's home. So we started with this. I took that question stem of who do you think? And we said, I think that the princess cleaned the old lady's home. And we talked about why we thought maybe she learned a lesson to be nice because she was just going to throw that old snail that wasn't so pretty into the river. So we talked about that. We talked about magic could make things happen like that. So we're going to say, the princess cleaned because, so now we're answering why, because she learned a lesson about being kind. Okay, so we also talked about in the story, it did not directly say that, but we're doing some inferencing. So we're inferencing that she wasn't very nice when she was kicking out the old witch snail. And so we took that inferencing, what we read and what we know, the witch cursed her because she wasn't very nice. And so maybe because of that, the princess learned it's good to be nice. So that's how we are making that inference. We're taking what we read, what we know, and we're making that inference. Number 2 says, explain your reasoning to answer question 1. How do you know your answer is correct? Cite the text directly to support your answer.
This is Karen doing a radio check.
So we said that, find a pencil that works. Sorry, guys. So we know it is correct because in the story, the princess was not kind to and let's look back here to how they described that snail. They said a regular snail right in here. She saw a snail among her lovely flowers, and she had one of her servants pick it up and throw it away. So I'm going to finish writing. Was not kind to the snail. And here's where I'm going to cite it out of the story. I'm going to put the quotation marks, and I'm going to put had one of her servants. I'm going back. pick it up and throw it away. It up and throw it away. And so the witch cursed her. I would hate to be cursed by a witch. I think she learned to be kind from this. So that's what we put for number 2. We know it's correct because in the story, the princess was not kind to the snail. And, so you see my quotation marks, had one of her servants pick it up and throw it away, in the quotations, and so the witch cursed her. I think she learned to be kind from this. And if I wasn't sure the exact wording, and that's what I did, I went back to my story and I found where she had one of her servants pick it up and throw it away. And that was actually in the first paragraph, so we weren't really sure, right? We talked about that. And the witch cursed her. And so we have in there that the witch cursed her. We put it in our own words, but it's okay because that's what happened. So that's the end of learning objective number 1, talking about using some proof to back up your claim or what you're saying, those details for the main idea. We did some inferencing because it didn't say exactly why she became kind. And we got it from our text, which was in the book or the article. See you tomorrow.